morning, everybody, and welcome to Miami. Bienvenidos a Miami, as everybody has been saying this weekend. John Hindhaugh and Shea Adam with you and the action for the second of two races from the Miami Street Circuits. Formula One this weekend, and opening up Grand Prix Sunday is the Porsche Carrera Cup North America. Round 4 presented by Yokohama. Shea, yesterday we had a race that was 16 minutes shorter than we expected, to be honest, but a race that had plenty going for it. In the sunshine this morning, we have most of the same cars going on there, and I would think Alex Sedgwick learned a very, very important lesson coming to the line yesterday.
Yes, that was the big story from yesterday's race, at least early on, was our pole sitter, Alex Sedgwick, being deemed as having changed lanes before the start-finish line, which is where the cars are nosed up to now. Sedgwick was ultimately awarded a penalty of 10 seconds, which would not have been as severe if we hadn't finished behind that safety car.
True.
Ultimately, before the safety car came out, it would have dropped him back to somewhere about 8th position. With the safety car, he wound up all the way back in P12. It affected his championship outlook, it affected the team, and ultimately they looked at the onboard and realized that he didn't move his hands, which normally is a good thing, but in this case of this track, not having a car outside of you means that you do need to hug that first apex just a little bit tighter.
Ultimately, that resulted in a win for Luke Hartog, no stranger to the top step of the box this season. How does that affect the overall championship in Pro? And let's talk about the classes as well, once you've told us that.
It was a big shakeup in yesterday's race because Luke Hartog ultimately wound up as our race winner. Luke, who starts today, by the way, from P9, going to have a lot more work cut out for him. Not Jeff Burton. It is Gus Burton, the young man from England, who sits now 21 points off of Luke Hartog. And ultimately, that is a big ask. But Burton, who was also penalized after the race yesterday for an incident earlier on in the day with Ryan Yardley, who is still in third position, but unfortunately yesterday picked up 0 points, means that he now has about half the points that Luke Hartog has accrued. But thankfully, due to yesterday's good performance, the guy who's starting on the outside of row number 1 today, Michael Cooper, is now tied for third in championship standings. Pro-Am, Marco Chironi still leads the way. Alan Metney up into second, a further 11 points back, with James Safronis hot on his heels. And in the AM category, it's still the mystery machine of Matt Halcomb leading the way on championship points, but now Chris Belomo has ramped it up and is charging hard. Halcomb on 69 points, Belomo on 58. Yesterday's race winner, Mark Vame, 41 points. After a rough start at Sebring, he is charging hard to try and win his third consecutive AM championship.
We've got a bit of time because the drivers are just getting into the cars. 40 minutes on the clock. Remember, 3 different classes here. The pros have the orange underline beside the driver names on the windscreen and the back shield. Also, that is the colour around the numbers on the door square. Masters are yellow, Pro-Am are green in the same spots. At the back of the grid, Tom Balamas, you've just mentioned there, the ACI Motorsports guy, underweight during the race yesterday. So he's been thrown to the back. So the number 19 ACI Motorsports car will be right at the back of the grid. David Tuarte and John Getz didn't take part yesterday. I believe, Shea, that you've been talking to the Kelly Moss team, and John Getz has got a backup car, so he is in the race today.
He is on the grid, and it's good news for John Getz, a man who never says quit. He really wants to participate in the race today, and thankfully, because of that backup car, he will be able to participate in one of the 2 races for this weekend. They were unable to get his backup car ready in time for the race yesterday, but they've got it good to go for today. It's another part of the problem with running this Miami Grand Prix, John. The transporters have to park off-site. So when the incident happened in qualifying, they weren't able to bring the backup car into the circuit until after all of the activity had finished late last night.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Frustrating for John and for Kelly Moss. A couple of the drivers to talk about, James Sofronas and Angel Benitez, were put to the back of the grid yesterday, it was a ride height infringement for Jim Sofranis. His car was not 72 millimetres at the front or 106 millimetres at the back, and Angel Benitez should have had 2 litres of corrosion inhibitor and 22 litres of distilled water in his radiators. He had some glycol in there, which is prohibited. The reason being that glycol is extremely viscous and lays on the top of the race circuit, and I don't think there's a series in the world that allows you to have glycol, so I'm not sure what happened there, but a strange mistake. So they were at the back having had all of their qualifying times disallowed. Now, one qualifying session means that your best time set your position for yesterday's race, your second best time for today. The in brackets part of that is that if you improve in the race, that sets your grid position for race 2. Well, James Sofranis, having no time at all, set a 1:59.8 yesterday. He's in 24th, and Angel Benitez set a 1:59.8 in the race yesterday, so he is in 26th. Let me give you the highlights of the grid then, with Alex Sedgwick on pole position again. He'll not make that same mistake. He'll stay on the hash marks today. He's got Michael Cooper alongside him, 98 and 88 on the front for JDX and Baby Bull Racing. It's Zach Vanier for JDX, making it a 1-3 for those drivers. You just know they've been talking to each other about the start. Jimmy Libra is on the outside of row 2 in the number 2. He ended up against the wall yesterday, and a very bizarre recovery attempt by Track Services here. Look, let's give them a bit of a break. They only do this once a year, and they're probably not used to getting Porsches on the back of a flat bay. Ryan Yardley on the inside of row 3 for Top Racing Performance in the number 78, with Elias De La Torre in JDX. It's all pro drivers, by the way. Dan Clark, who finished 4th yesterday for MDK, he'll start in 7th in the 64, alongside Gus Burton. Gus will not be happy in the yellow and white number 20 in 8th position. Luke Hartog, yesterday's winner, in 9th, as Shea mentioned, for Kelly Moss in the white and green with the stripe down the middle, and Michael McCann in the mostly red. McCann Racing number 8 makes up the top 10. Efren Castro is in 13th. He's the pole position sitter for Pro Am. Right behind him, Jordan Wallace in 15th is in 2nd in that class, and 3rd, a further row back, is Moisey Aretsky. Pole position for the Masters class, Chris Palomo, who was only a couple of, well, actually 4 tenths ahead of the field, but he has got about 6 cars between himself and Mark Varmey, who is 2nd in the Masters class, and Matt Holcomb is in 3rd in a field that looks fantastic in the morning sunshine. Track temperature 34.4 Celsius, air temperature around about 27.5. We've got 40 minutes on the clock, and if you are just joining us either on RS2 IMSA Radio or on the TV feed at imsaradio.com, where we have full live, no blocks, no breaks coverage for you in the IMSA broadcast booth this weekend, or should I say the global broadcast house, as we are looking at Porsche. It's John Hindhaugh and the foremost play-by-play female commentator in the world. I'm delighted to say once again it is Shea Adam. 98 and 88 on that front row there. Michael Cooper with the pink colour. He will get a little bit of an advantage if he can hold on to the outside, because the first braking area is a big left-hander. Can he make that one work? Here we go, green flag, and we are counting down at Miami for round 4 of the IMSA Porsche Carrera Cup North America, presented by Yokohama. 1, 2, 3 wide, and the pole sitter gets swamped going through into turn 1. Zach Vanier comes through, and there's the almost inevitable schmozzle into turn 1. I can see already somebody's broken a radiator in the middle of that, but at the front of the field, it was a phenomenal start, and already that number 9 of Zach Vanier for JDX, the black and silver car, which Shea will be supporting, A, because he's a Canadian, and B, because it's black and silver, because she's a Raiders fan. And they are leading through the marina area at the turn 6, 7 and 8, now onto the fast run down the first of these long straights. This is a slightly curving straight, but it's flat out for the Porsches side by side. The number 20 of Gus Burton has got the bright yellow and green of Dan Clark right with them there. They're disputing the bottom end of the top 10. What happened to Alex Sedgwick? He's recovered into second position ahead of the number 88 from Michael Cooper, the Baby Bull Racing cars. They go through the Hard Rock Hook, the long left, right, left, and now heading into that tricky section where they have to go all the way down through the gearbox, through the chicane, don't hit the bollard, onto the back straight, and everybody is slowing down because we have got yellows, and it is a full course yellow. Let's pick the bones out of this year and find out who it is. Well, that was the Wallace car, the number 23, so that one is out, but there's a whole bunch of cars. We might have to come through the pit lane here.
I would not be surprised at all if we wind up going through the pit
Alan
lane.
Metney's in there, the 99.
Metney is in there, Verhagen is in there, Jordan Wallace is in there, as you picked up, and Madeline Stewart. That is Tom Collingwood, who's off the track as well in the hippie Porsche, the favorite Porsche of the responsible adult. We've got carnage at the start of this one. Glad to see that everyone is out of their cars and walking away, if not assessing the damage. Alan Metney, very classy, went over to make sure that other drivers were okay. It's not the way that we want to start a race. Boy, a lot of damage once again from Madeline Stewart, who had quite a bit of damage at the second race of the weekend at Sebring. So that's going to be a lot of work for these drivers and teams to try and flip the cars back around before we race next month in Montreal. But Zach Vanier taking advantage of the overly abundant, cautious start from Alex Sedgwick, who, to his credit, held the line on the inside exactly where he should have been for the pole sitter, but now we know that is not the optimal line through turn one.
And we might have to think about that later on today when we're looking at Formula One Academy and for Formula One, the full race itself. So let's just give you the rundown of the damaged cars. I reckon that is in Pro-Am, the number 23 Kelly Moss Racing Jordan Wallace driven car. For Moment-Top FMS Motorsport at times RGB Racing, Michael Verhagen in the 91, Alan Metney for Kelly Moss, Madeline Stewart for JDX. Now let's see what started that off. See if we can pick the bones out of this. It was a decent run. Everybody stays in line this time, and Alex Sedgwick got burned by that for the 10 seconds yesterday as they come under the Crypto.com overpass at the start. The green flag waved by Tony, and actually Sedgwick gets a decent start. Cooper goes all the way to the right hand side and sweeps through. What a brilliant manoeuvre though by Zach Vernier, and then the carnage behind. Zach Vernier went right down the middle of the two front row starters, and Vernier picks up the lead, and I still haven't worked out how that started at turn one. I think that is, honestly, I just think that is the absolute definition of a racing incident. There were cars in the air there, and there were more cars that have stopped that were involved, but some of them got through that. I think Tom Balamas had to go round it. Definitely the number 68 of Chris Palomo and Matt Holcomb were there. And also the James Sofraner's car is trying to get back, but he's got right rear suspension damage there. Was Tom Collingwood involved in that as well in the 69? I think he was.
The hippie car was stranded in the barrier, driver's side facing out, so Tom should be able to get out of that car of his own accord. But that was exactly as you said, a racing incident, carnage just kind of unfolding. And part of the peril of being in that back half of the grid is you have so many cars trying to go through a very tight space at the same time. Doesn't always work out, and in this case, it didn't, unfortunately.
Well, let's hope that this can be cleared. We, obviously, being the first of the day, we are up against it time-wise. So I don't think they'll throw the red here because there's not a huge amount of debris, but we might see them, of course, and I say that, and there's a piece of red Porsche bodywork sitting right on the racing line between turns
Is
1
that
and
the
2.
bollard again?
No, I think that's just body work. I think that's just body work. Marshall's doing a fabulous job, and we should mention them as well, of course. They had a very long day yesterday, along with our camera operators, in what was very, very hot weather. Now, yesterday, it has to be said, there was a long delay in recovering one car. And once again, the issue is that they don't seem to be able to get the flatbed low enough and at a shallow enough angle to get the Porsche onto the flatbed. Plus, there's only one flatbed there, and there are at least 4 cars that need recovering. Second and third flatbeds have arrived. We are still running past the incident. First car is being pulled up, which I think that's the 91 Verhagen car, blue and white car.
Madeline Stewart.
No, that's Madeline, yes. Not in what I would normally think of JDX colours there. In fairness, they tend to be black and white or black and silver, or silver and or black and gold, of course, for JDX. Well, Madeline will not be happy. She had a good run yesterday. At the front of the field, let's just recap what happened there. Zach Vanier, the Canadian driver for JDX Racing, slipped through the gap whilst Alex Sedgwick and Michael Cooper were battling from the front row. Sedgwick in second, making it JDX 1-2 from Baby Bull Racing's Michael Cooper. Jimmy Libra, who was absolutely incandescent with rage yesterday, and been bumped out when he was battling for the win, actually, with the 10-second penalty applied to Alex Sedgwick partway through the race. ACL Motorsports then in 4th. Top Racing and Ryan Yardley at 78 in 5th position overall, and in Pro. Ryan looking for a little bit of redemption yesterday after some right front damage. And making up the top 6, Elias De La Torre for JDX Racing. Let's see if we can work out where it all started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across the track, and that started down right on the inside of turn 1. I saw one of the front spoiler rubber accoutrements go flying there. So let's see if we can work out where all that started. Right at the back. Okay, there it is. That's the mistake early on, and I'm afraid to say that's Madeline who kicked all that off, who missed her braking point, I reckon, and then rode up on the back wheel of the car in front, maybe 1 or 2. Was it Alan Meckley that she rode over on the back of there, Shane?
I think it was, John, and it was Madeline Stewart coming in with a head of steam down the inside. Maybe she saw an opportunity to try and make up some positions and then missed the braking point. But yes, it resulted in, 5 cars being out, and Tom Balamas now in the pit lane, having received a new left rear Yokohama. So hopefully that will be the extent of damage for him. And glad to see Metney get out of the car. There's quite a bit of damage to the left front of his Porsche as well as the right rear, I would imagine, where Madeline climbed over it.
That comes down to the fact, as Balamas just getting that left rear Yokohama tyre and racing wheel on the multicoloured car, almost a sort of Paul Smith lining coloured car. That, for those of you who are into your fashion, I did own a Paul Smith suit once. I don't think I'd get into it now, in fairness. For those of you thinking, kind of, what are you talking about? This is closed wheel competition. Yes, you're right, but the amount of camber on these Porsche 911 Type 992 GT3 Cup cars, camber is the distance that the bottom of the wheel sticks out more than the top of the wheel. So you don't have your wheels and Yokohama tyres flat to the ground. They're at an angle, both front and rear. The reason for that is when you're leaning on the cars going through the corners, you want that suspension as you're leaning. Remember, now we're coming through the pit lane. I think that's very smart by race control. Cars are the only vehicles that lean out from a corner. If you think about it, planes, bikes, boats all lean into the apex of a corner. Cars lean out when you turn in, and therefore you want the most contact patch from your Yokohama tyre, so your tyres stick out more at the bottom than they do at the top. That's great for handling and taking corner speed. However, when you get side-by-side contact, as we saw there with Madeline and with Alan, the bits that are sticking out at the bottom of the Yokohama tyre and the racing wheel, they then make contact with each other, and just like a single-seater or an open wheeler, that can spin the car off the ground, and that's exactly what we saw. And by the time that Madeline came back down again after making that very light contact, it doesn't have to be heavy contact, she was already well into the braking zone, probably with front suspension damage, and unable to get the car slowed down. From Alan's point of view, he'd lost, I think, some rear suspension, and therefore he probably didn't have all the drive he was expecting, and the car was handling a bit weirdly. And that's what happens at first corners. Now, the stewards in race control will be having a good long look at that. Everybody that was involved, and if it is decided that Madeline was the catalyst for that, and that would appear to be what we have seen, again, race control have way more views on that than we do. But then she is out already. It may mean Stern talking to and being parked up for the early part of the next race weekend, and a stop and hold perhaps for a free practice session. However, there will be, and you'll back me up on this, we know Madeline very well, there will be nobody more disappointed with what happened there than Madeline herself.
No, for sure, and especially coming off of yesterday's race where the young Kiwi had her best finish in the series. All right, it had been 3 races, but 18th place finish. She was the inaugural Porsche New Zealand scholarship winner in 2021, ran in that Carrera Cup that year, so our buddy Crailsey knows her very well. Last year, she participated in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America and finished 3rd in the Pro-Am category. And Madeline is a person who's got so much ambition and drive outside of racing as well. She owns a gym on the Gold Coast, which is where she's from. So very cool that we have such a fun entrepreneur in the series as well. Her gym, by the way, is called Fit Stop, just for those of you wondering.
Very
find yourself in that part of the world. But yeah, it's not the way that she wanted to begin the last race of the weekend, but I wonder almost maybe, did her foot slip off the brake? Was there something weird going on inside the car?
Was there another problem? Yeah.
Was there another problem? Because that's not the kind of driving that we're used to seeing from Madeline Stewart.
I totally agree with that. Let's just give you the rundown then. Zach Vanier leads from Alex Sedgwick, the pole sitter. From the outside, front row starter Michael Cooper for Baby Bull. ACI, Jimmy Libra in 4th. Then Ryan Yardley, Elias De La Torre. These are all pro drivers, of course. Gus Burton in 7th, Dan Clark in 8th. Luke Hartog, yesterday's winner, in 9th, and Michael McCann in 10th. It's Yves Boltas and Sebra Cook to make up the top dozen, Jake Pedersen and Colin Kaminsky for the top 14, which are all pros. In Pro-Am, in 15th position, Moise Aretsky in the number 44 car. He's got Angel Benitez, who has come up from 26th position. Angel up from 26th then to 16th position. So despite having very little in terms of green flag racing, he's made up 10 positions. So Moisey's got Angel between himself and Efren Castro now in 2nd in the Pro-Am, Kenton King in 3rd. So Efren Castro, having to avoid the Schmozzle at the first corner, has given up the lead in Pro-Am. In Masters, again, as yesterday, Mark Varme has come through. Mark was down in 27th position, 2nd in the Masters class, and he's up to 19th position and leads now with Marco Cironi, Jeff Mosing, Robert Turtino, who is back on the grid today, by the way. I wasn't sure that was going to happen.
It's Tuati. Tuati was the one who had dropped out.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Yes, Scott Blind is in 23rd position, so there are 4 cars now, 3 cars checked out between Mark Varme leading Masters and Scott in 2nd for Ruckus Racing. Then 2 more Offe Levy and Peter Ludwig before John Getz, Matt Holcomb, Chris Palomo and Tom Bolames, who are 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, all following around. Afraid to say that the clean-up is not going particularly quickly, and we've still got a car on the ground here, with now coming down a half distance, and a lot of fluid, dry preparation on the track at turn 1. That'll be fine.
Kitty litter.
It works. Don't think it
does.
doesn't. I've used that in the garage before when I didn't have anything else, when I used to have older cars.
Well, and you know, John, death taxes and Mark Kwame leading the AM class, particularly at Miami, they're just given things. And last year he won both races. The first race he won from pole. He got fast lap in both races. Well, yesterday he won the race. Today he's leading it again. And if this is some kind of an omen for Mark Kwame just doing well in Miami, I think he's going to be the one pushing hardest for every race next year to be held at this place.
The circuit laid down this year, talking to the drivers this week, and to the guys in the other championships, particularly in F1, who have more specific experience, because we have changed tyre suppliers from Carrera Cup, Porsche Carrera Cup North America last year to this year. But this surface is much more abrasive than last year's. How would you say that? Well, remember, this is not a full-time racetrack. These are car parks and access roads normally, and therefore the race surface is laid down and for the most part taken up again at the end of each event. And this year the aggregates, the stones, if you will, on the surface are a little bit further apart, and they're a little bit bigger, and they are giving, in some respects, that gives more grip. Yes, it gives more grip, but what it does is it works the tyres harder. Add that into the fact that we have a brand new tyre supply this year, and hello to Yokohama in the 2024 Porsche Carrera Cup North America. It means that we are, in some respect, Shay, in the unknown. Now, having long yellow flags will help immensely. We had it yesterday for the last 16 minutes. We were just boiling up to see who had saved their Yokohama tyre performance. And then that was taken away from us. It looks like we might get somewhere near 17 or 18 minutes of run to the flag, and you would think that that would be all right, except for the fact, of course, that these cars are all going to be a lot heavier going into the last 15, 16 minutes than people expected.
Yeah, I like your use of boiling up there, especially given the track temperature as it was yesterday compared to how much cooler it is this morning.
Correct.
Last year's race lap record was Riley Dickinson from race 2, a 156.693. I don't think we're going to be in threat of that today simply because of the heavier fuel load. But maybe Zach Vanier is going to change that. Maybe Alex Sedgwick is going to fight back when we get back to green. How about Jimmy Liebert back and forth, who is looking for redemption after yesterday's race ended with him on the back of one of those flatbeds, ultimately scoring 0 points. Ryan Yardley in 5th, 0 points in yesterday's race. When we get back to green, there is going to be this surge because everybody feels that dragon's breath on the back of their neck. Get the points, get them now, get it done while we can. And oh, by the way, you've got a lot less time to work with than you think you had at the beginning of the day.
The Michael Verhagen car has now been put onto the rollback, the flatbed. So we should be getting underway with around about 17, 18 minutes to go, and we will release the full power, full 507 horsepower of the racing engines. Just around about 520 horsepower, 525 PS for the GT3 RS, which has been leading the field round in those classic Porsche Salzburg colours. Looking an absolute picture. That's new for this race. We've run 992 turbos before. It's the first time I've seen the GT3 RS, and Shea
Yes,
would take
please.
that from you. Yeah. See, Shea will drive a car on the street with the big rear spoiler. I've got to the age where it's comfort as much as speed for me, and I'd much prefer. I have no problem with my race cars having spoilers on, but my street cars I prefer just a little bit less Larry. So GT3 Touring for me. Thank you very much indeed. Although I'm quite happy with my GTS.
That is my lottery car, although Miami Blue is my Porsche color.
Yeah, well,
so.
yes.
Yep.
We understand that, Shea, yes.
I would gladly take that one. I mean, the Salzburg colors, they work. Red and white, you're never going to turn that down.
Well, I'm not going to turn around red and white stripes as a Sunderland Football Club supporter. Our season ended somewhat ignominiously yesterday in a defeat at home, but we achieved our mid-table mediocrity that we were somewhat expecting, to be honest. And we start afresh in September. Yeah, red and white I'm never going to turn down, although, as you well know, Shea, I have a soft spot for a blue Porsche, particularly dark blue Porsches.
Yeah, just a couple of those that you've had over the course of your lifetime.
Yes.
The dark blue is a wonderful color. The lights are out on the safety car. Am I seeing that correctly? Are we going to get back to racing?
Yeah, I think we are, and that means the full field, which I reckon is somewhere near 29 cars now, after that schmozzle at the first corner, is under the control of Zach Vanier. He comes round. It will be a single file start. He just backed everybody up there, coming out of turn 17 into 18. And it is indeed the single file start. We go back green. Vanier, Sedgwick, Cooper, Libra, Yardley, De La Torre, Burton, Clark, Hartog, McCann for your top 10. Good restart from Sabra Cook as well, back in 12th position as they fan out again. And once again, Vanier goes to the outside. They cross the oil dry preparation where the incident happened at the first race. So we've lost some, 30 minutes or thereabouts. No, check that, 20 minutes or thereabouts of racing down the inside. The pink-fronted car going through. Moisey making up positions in the midfield. He'll want to get closer to the front. He was going past the number 77 there of Colin Kaminsky. Also down in that area as well is Angel Benitez and Efren Castro. They've made up positions as well. Mark Kvarme still leading the Masters, and Pro-Am is Moisey Uretsky leading that at the moment in that number 44. 3 wide, right in the middle of that, the number 20 of Gus Burton is the yellow car, and once again in the Hard Rock Hook there's all kinds of lines and into the wall. Oh, disaster for the number 64 of Dan Clark, who has gone off. Now the marshals are scrambling. It's a reasonably long lap here, 3.3 miles. That's not going to drive. We're going to go straight back to yellow here. Oh,
we had an incident in qualifying there, John, for David Tuati that ultimately took him out of the weekend, as yes, the yellows are flying once again. It took quite a few minutes to move the car from that position just because of where it is and where the safety cars are stationed around the track. Took a little bit of getting to, but unfortunate for Speedy Dan Clark, who came into today 7th in points after a good run yesterday.
It's ultimately disappointing for all of these drivers who have spent a lot of money to be here and not to get that much racing. And this is effectively a straight track. It's called an autodrome, but it's a straight track. And got to wonder, maybe do we need some cranes here in the future to get rid of some of these cars? If the Formula One and the single-seater machines are always craned away, and that saves time and trying to roll them onto a rollback. Let's try and work out what happened to Dan. He was in that battle for 6th, 7th and 8th, and he got a little hip check on the inside, and broke a steering arm, I would say. And what's slightly worrying to me there is how easily the concrete moved that had a speaker or something behind it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And the speaker almost falls down from the catch fencing, and the bass speaker that was behind it goes and moves a good 3 or 4 feet. Also, we had the number 11 of Peter Ludwig in the forward motorsport car. There's a big black box just behind the concrete area. Peter's in the pits, by the way. They got moved. I'm very surprised. Now, these cars are about, in race trim, 1,300 kilos. I'm very surprised at that part of the circuit, which is not a fast part of the circuit, how easy that concrete moved there, Shay.
Yeah, that was not a very comforting thing to see. It was Elias De La Torre, by the way, who had the contact with Dan Clark. And Dan, out of the car, want to report that for his family. He's staring at the damage. Broken. But further up in the lap, there was an incident between Jimmy Libra and Michael Cooper, with the two of them sort of doing a little bit of a Kevin Magnussen and Lewis Hamilton, both well off the track. And I thought that maybe that would have set up what happened for Dan Clark, but no, it was a separate incident just with Elias.
Now, you know, the good thing about the concrete moving is that that does take some of the energy and takes the shock out of the energy rather than bouncing the car back on the track. But, well, as I say, a little bit shocked about that. It's bad news for Dan, and he is out of the car. Shay says he's heading towards the Porsche Cayenne intervention vehicle in Porsche Crayon, that grey colour, and he's looks like a coupe as well. How lovely! He is already on the way back to the pit lane, whilst once again the recovery starts to get underway. The four-way flashes come on as a standard feature if there's a problem with the car. If there's a big spin or there's an accident that is over a certain amount of G's, the four-way flashes come on automatically, even on these race cars. And that's moved that concrete back. What do you reckon? A couple of feet there?
Yeah, it's pointy now towards the fans, whereas before it would have been flush.
Now, what we should say is that area directly behind is not a fan area. That is, in effect, the dead zone. So nobody other than the track workers and marshals would have been there. And now they're working out how to get this car moved as well. And I just wonder now if we're going to get any more green flag.
This is an appropriate time as well to point out that we do not have our AMR safety crew on site as normal. So things are a bit different as people are learning how to extricate the cars. And AMR safety crew, we miss you guys. Can't wait to see you next week in Laguna. Another look at that moment. It was just the slightest of pit checks, and it must have broken something in the steering rack.
Look at that speaker cabinet move backwards, though. I mean, that I'm really somewhat shocked by how much those exterior barriers have moved there. Slightest of contact, as you say, Shay, coming through the Hard Rock hook. Again, hate to criticise any of the track workers. These are the only sports cars here this weekend. Everything else is much lighter and can be craned, can be more easily craned away. These are the only closed wheel cars this weekend, and therefore the flatbeds having to be brought into use to move them. Getting down to 10 minutes now. As it stands, it's Zach Vanier, Alex Sedgwick, 78. In third place is Ryan Yardley. So we've got a couple of drivers potentially with redemption from yesterday on the podium in the categories. Pro-Am, Moise Aretsky in the number 44, who started down in third in that category in 18th. And he's pushed his way up fairly. I mean, we've hardly had any green flag racing. Basically, he's made up three positions and gone past his two major rivals there of Efren Castro and Jordan Wallace in the Masters class for the most life experienced drivers here. Chris Palomo started in 20th and was on pole position. It's Mark Varmey who leads that class now in 18th position, with Scott Blount in second. He had a spin yesterday as well in the bright yellow 35. And John Getz, who didn't start yesterday, in third. So poor Chris is down in 26th position and in 5th position in class because he had to avoid all of that coming together at turn 1. So that incident has really shaken up the field, and that might be all she wrote here, Shay.
It very well could be. There were a lot of marshals that were standing in that safety zone examining the concrete wall to see if maybe they could move it or if it would be okay to leave and just finish out the remaining 8.5 minutes of this race. The car of Speedy Dan Clark was up on the flatbed, so that is the good news, but it is going to be at least one more lap behind that safety car, given the fact that it did not pull into the pit lane. And just a quick note on Moise Uretsky. If he does stay at the head of this, if we do get a result where things don't change, this would be Moise's second career win in the class. The first of which came at Sebring last year. Moise, who lives in Miami now, would be thrilled for this to be in that way. Another competitor that he's not going to have to face for the remainder of this race is Peter Ludwig, who is officially retired after that contact with Scott Blind.
Now, I think the safety car's speeding up here, so I think we might get a restart. Just for now, by the way, Zach Vanier has the fastest lap, but it's a 2:06.316. And to be honest, a street car GT3 would probably do that around here. So I think that's going to change. 7.5 minutes to go in an accident-affected 4th round of the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, presented by Yokohama. Yeah, that red and white GT3 RS has definitely speeded up, and everybody is warming up their Yokohama tyres again. We might get 3 or 4 more laps here to decide this. Now, let's hope that it stays green. Yeah, safety car's pulling away.
Yes.
So, here comes Zachary Vanier. First and second for JDX Racing. Alex Sedgwick in second, Ryan Yardley in third from pole position. Yardley will be, Sedgwick will be cursing his luck at losing the lead at the start there. They're the two JDX guys. Then Ryan Yardley, who had that right front issue yesterday after contact early on. He's in third. Michael Cooper, the unlucky man at the moment, who's just off the podium in the number 88 Baby Bull racing car. That's the purple or pink purple coloured car. Then Jimmy Libra in the red, white and blue ACI Motorsports car. Gus Burton is in 6th in the yellow and white MDK Motorsports car. Now, we go back behind the safety car and the yellow flags are still out, but there was definitely a speeding up there. Are we going back green this time with just under 6 to go? We should get 3 laps out of this, and people are weaving left to right.
And it is worth pointing out, John, that every driver in the top 5 is still looking for their first Porsche Carrera Cup North America win.
Great start.
So will this be chaos? Will this be elbows out? You betcha.
Early in the season, it's nice to get some points on the board. Zachary Vanier then will lead us back to green flag with 5.5 minutes to go. We'll get a couple, maybe 3 laps. It will depend on when they cross the line. Tony throws the green flag on the starter stand. And here we go. Vanier then in the black and white JDX car with his teammates, in inverted commas. Sedgwick behind them. Yes, they're teammates, but they are racing on their own. Michael McCann pulling out wide in the red number 8, trying to come down the outside. The leader holds on to position. Here comes the number 88 of Cooper, side by side with Ryan Yardley. Also right out there, Zach Burton in the other yellow car. This is interesting. Very interesting indeed. What a great start at the front of the field by Vanier and Sedgwick. They've pulled away. Everybody else is scrapping, but they've got a little bit of room. Yardley in third. The cork in the bottle at the moment with the pink fronted car, the purple fronted car of Cooper And then Libra, Burton, De La Torre, Hartog. Luke Hartog coming through there in the white and green number 24. Winner yesterday. And he's looking a little bit anxious to get further forward. 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go. And we are back to green flag racing. And we have got through that tight first section, which makes me slightly more convinced. And here's the pass for the lead down the inside into the Hard Rock hook. Oh, off the circuit though by the number 98 red, white and black car of Sedgwick. He's going to have to give that back. He's going to have to give that back. It looked like a good move, but he couldn't make the apex and couldn't stay between the white lines, Shea.
No, he couldn't, but he's not giving the position back, and we don't know how race control is enforcing track limits in this race. We don't know if that was fair game for the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, whereas it might be off limits for Formula One. Alex Sedgwick is our race leader, though, at the moment. He led all of yesterday, had it taken away post-race because of the penalty that was enforced. Alex Sedgwick wants this win more than I think he wants Christmas.
Down to turn 17, the Miami blue corner, now 18 and 19 as they head back to the start-finish line. It's still Ryan Yardley, and then the battle in third, rather, and then the battle for fourth. Oh, it was the little touch there, I think, between Gus Burton and the number 88 of Michael Cooper. That was very, very sketchy indeed. Oh, and the number 2 of Jimmy Libra has got part of the carbon fibre reinforced plastic hood on that car, luggage cover sticking up, and that's working like an air brake, and through goes the 24 of Luke Hartog, and right with him as well is that Baltas in there as well? Yes, I thought it was. That is Yves Baltas for MDK Motorsport. Sabre Cook right in there as well, well inside the top 10. That's going to be another good finish for Sabre if she can hold on to this. The leaders are side by side. Now, is this the place being given back? I think it is. I think that's really smart work from Alex Sedgwick. He's just put the fastest lap in of 57.892 on the lap where he took the lead. But I think he's redressed there, and I think that's sensible. With 2 minutes and 8 seconds to go, Shea, he does not want another penalty.
Nope, he doesn't. And there's Michael Cooper way off the track trying to stay ahead of Elias De La Torre. More easily asked than done. That was a position being held onto, not a position gain, so that shouldn't be a problem. My question for Jimmy Libra is, how is he seeing any apex as, that was Elias De La Torre into the wall.
De La Torre moving there. All 4 Yokohamas are well off the track at the Hard Rock hook, and behind them there was a spin, as you mentioned, and that was, I think, Ludwig and McCann again, wasn't it? That's the number 8 of Michael McCann that went around at the back of the field, if I'm not mistaken.
But I don't think, well, he didn't get assistance from Peter Ludwig. He's retired in the pit
of course,
lane.
yes. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was,
that was moved by Sedgwick to give the position back, because that would have been overturned by race control.
Completely agree with you there, Shea Adam, who is in the IMSA Global Broadcast House with me, John Hindhoff. Ryan Yardley in the black and yellow car, 55 seconds on the clock. Now, there will be one more lap. There's the Michael McCann car, the red car that we saw spinning at the entrance to the Hard Rock hook, and that car in the pit lane. Sedgwick then, PT Autosport driver, very disappointed with yesterday, but they knew they had a good car. Looks like Michael's going to be able to drive that number 8 Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car back to the paddock area. 18 seconds to go. It will be white flag next time around. They're just heading up into turn 11, into the turn 11 and 12 area. Yeah, back at the Hard Rock area, the party zone. Seen a lot of action there this weekend. The Gainbridge yellow area is underneath the transit bridge, and now they run down onto the long back straight. Vanier leading from Sedgwick, got the lead back after Sedgwick took that lead by going off the circuit. Sedgwick is in behind him. You can't see him right now. He's tucked right up underneath that reverse swan neck wing. Goes to the right, dives to the left. Oh, second move there by Vanier. Now moving in the braking area. Was he blocking there? This is US race control, remember. That might be being looked at there. He'll get a warning as they go on to... Oh, there's a checkered flag. It's the checkered flag. My apologies. I was expecting to see a white flag there. So it is Vanier who's held on. Vanier from Sedgwick, 2 a second. Then Yardley will be the third step on the box, with Gus Burton in fourth. In fifth position, Michael Cooper, Elias De La Torre in sixth. Hartog, Baltas, Libra, Sabra Cook back in the top 10. Angel Benitez from all the way down in 26th position pulls himself up in very few green flag laps to 11th. What could have been for Angel this weekend if he hadn't lost his times in the first race? My goodness me. Then Pedersen and Kaminsky for the Pro class. Moise Uretsky holds on for Pro Am ahead of Kenton King in second for MDK, and Efren Castro in third. Marco Cerrone in fourth, and Jeff Mosing in fifth in Pro Am. And they're all 14th down to 18th overall. Mark Varmett for MDK wins in Masters ahead of Scott Blind for Ruckus Racing in second, and Scott closed right up towards the end of the race. And in third, John Getz gets a little bit of redemption from not being able to start yesterday. Poleman on both days, Matt Holcomb in fourth position ahead of Chris Palomo and Tom Balamis in the Masters category. Well, once again, a race that was punctuated by the running of that lovely GT3 RS. We love to see it. We'd rather have not had, if you see what I mean. So Vanier, Sedgwick, Yardley, Burton, Cooper, De La Torre. Hartog with the fastest lap, by the way, 1:57.7.
Which means that he holds on to the championship lead.
Oh, wow.
Unofficially, by my math, Luke Hartog has 82 points. In second will be Gus Burton, still on 64. In third, again unofficially, Zach Vanier on 58 points. And then in fourth, a tie between Ryan Yardley and Alex Sedgwick on 54 points. So it is still very much Luke Hartog's championship after 4 races of the season. But we have a lot more than 4 to go. We've got, what, 10 more rounds?
Yeah, and you've got to think that Luke Hartog, after the joy of yesterday, not getting the race laps today and having to start well down on the grid in 9th position, he moved 2 places forward, but actually he's not going to be that disappointed with what went on around him, because he held on to the championship lead as we head to another Formula One round in Canada for the next 2 races in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America ship.
Yeah, and I do believe in Pro-Am, Marco Cironi still has the lead there, although that gap has shrunk a little bit. It was a bad day for Alan Metney and James Sofronis and Jordan Wallace, who were 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in points. So it helps Efren Castro and Moise Uretsky win at home. Massive round of applause to Moise. He should move himself up to within the top 3 in championship points after today.
Into the pit lane for all of the remaining cars. I think we only had 27 at the end there. Such a shame. Actually, no, Dan Clark was still... No, Dan Clark can't have been running. I'll take that back. That car was trailered away. I think we only had 26 cars at the end there. So a bit of work to do for a lot of these teams. I don't feel like we saw the full potential of this grid. It was boiling up nicely yesterday before we lost the last 16 minutes. Lost around about, in fact, just a little bit more than half of the race there, Shay. But you've got to say, for me, the driver of the, if there was a driver of the day, and there isn't, but if there was, Angel Benitez, who pulls himself up into 11th position from starting in 26th with, what did we have? Half a dozen green flag laps, if that?
Yeah, it was a very impressive performance. More so being in the right place at the right time for Angel Benitez. He'll be very happy with the results of today's race as well. We've got two cars who are going to be reviewed post-race for track limits as well. It's never ending, and I have a feeling that race control is going to be very busy after this one. The two cars who are going to be investigated, Elias de la Torre, who finished in the sixth place, and Michael Cooper in the 88, who finished fifth. So that could change things up as well.
Well, that could be even better news for Luke Hartog, because both of those cars are ahead of him at the moment, and indeed for Yves Baltas, Jimmy Libra and Sabra Cook, who made up the top 10. Well, the clouds looked to be a little bit more threatening, but we didn't get any splash of rain, but there was enough incident and accident without the influence of Mother Nature. We'll be following the whole of the 2024 Porsche Carrera Cup North America season with Yokohama on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. And remember, you can watch and listen to that wherever you are, either here in the States or further afield. No subscription, no blocks, no breaks. Every time they are on track. Next time out, it will be at the Canadian Formula One Grand Prix. That's a very busy weekend of IMSA racing, with the Michelin Pilot Challenge on at Mid-Ohio as well. Shea, Jeremy and I will be on duty for that. There's an awful lot of motorsport still to come from Miami this weekend, and hope you can stay with some of that. Just waiting to see if we can get the podium ceremonies and formalities underway before we sign off here, and just bear with us for a moment as the track cleaning goes on at turn 1. Let's just give you the unofficial results one more time. At the front of the field, Zach Vanier wins for JDX, and it's a 1-2 for that team, with Alan Sedgwick in second place and Ryan Yardley in third. The talking points, the accidents, particularly at the start of the race. The number 91 Madeline Stewart car coming diving down the inside, making contact with the 82 car, sorry. Madeline Stewart coming down the inside, making contact with Alan Metney, and the Verhagen 91 car taking out a handful of cars early on. The subsequent cleanup taking half of the race to get sorted out. De Quesada, Safronas, Wallace, Verhagen, Metney, Stewart all involved. Dan Clark going out later on in the race. And I have to say, I hadn't realised that Jordan Wallace had gone out in that for the Kelly Ross number 23. But we'll see that now. And that rather broke the rhythm of the race, with a lot of damaged Porsche 911 Type 992 race cars needing to be recovered. And in fact, there was so much going on that we had to have a run through the pit lane for the remainder of the field. So behind the top three, Gus Burton gets a fourth position and continues his championship challenge ahead of Michael Cooper in fifth, Elias de la Torres in sixth, Luke Hartog, yesterday's winner, in seventh for now, but with two of the cars ahead of him being investigated post-race for potential track limits. Yves Baltas in eighth, Jimmy Libra recovering after the disappointment of yesterday when he ended up in the wall in ninth, and Sabra Cook in 10th position. Behind them, look at the green numbers for Moise Aretsky winning in Pro-Am ahead of Kenton King and Efren Casco, with Marco Cerrone and Jeff Mosing in fourth and fifth. Mark Varmey fighting his way through to win in the yellow category. That is the Masters class, ahead of Scott Blind and John Gertz, who didn't get a start yesterday. He'll be on the podium in the Masters ahead of Paul Sitter, Matt Holcomb. Beyond that, a lot of people who had problems or who were tied up in the various incidents and accidents. Shea Adam was with me, John Hindorf, in the IMSA Global Broadcast House this weekend for Porsche Carrera Cup North America and our second race for Miami. I hope that you can join us when we are back with you live, no blocks, no breaks, from the Canadian Formula One Grand Prix, and plenty of action on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV that weekend, as well as we'll be at Mid-Ohio for the 4-hour feature race for Michelin Pilot Challenge, plus all the supports. We're just waiting to see if we can get some images of the podium before we sign off. So let's stay with this for just a moment or two's time. It would be nice here to see the top three on there.
It would be, and honestly, I want to give a shout out to Scott Blind, his fourth ever Porsche Carrera Cup North America race, and he's on the podium. That's quite an accomplishment. Yes, there was a lot of chaos in that category, but for a guy coming into the Masters class, learning how to drive these cars, a guy with a lot of background with far out racing, but not so much with this professional limits of a series, it's a very impressive showing.
Finished up facing the wrong direction yesterday, recovered from that to get some points. Made up 10 positions in the race. And look, you can say people haven't finished, but look, I've been on a race track plenty of times, and you still count that as finishing ahead of those guys. If they've made a mistake or you've had to pick your way through the carnage, I'm taking that. And that's exactly what Scott should be doing as well.
Yep, and another good day for Alex Sedgwick. We count him now with 2 podiums in both of the second races at Miami, so very exciting for him. Zach Vanier with his first race win. Getting a look now at the driver cool-down room. Mark Baum, the closest to us. Looks cool as a cucumber.
I think we had 2 laps. We had 2 laps?
Very cool
Did you get in
that
first
these guys get
after the
to
first
go
crash?
in the F1 cool-down room. Hang on, see if we can have a listen.
Okay, so then you were first the whole time?
Yeah, so we all jumped to first.
Yeah, I jumped to first and then after the first crash. And I had like 6 cars to pass. I got lucky.
And it's exactly what you would expect to hear, whether it was Formula One Academy or Formula One, the guys discussing, because you don't know what's gone on other than your own race. And therefore, how did you get to the front? Well, I got to the front. I passed 6 people through that crash. It's absolutely brilliant stuff there, Shay. Watching that.
Yeah.
Was that the 3 class winners that were sitting there, I reckon?
Yep. Moise Uretsky was the one who was standing up.
Yeah.
I think that was his son sitting in the chair. Zach Vanier, the overall race winner, was in the middle, and then Mark Kwame on the end. Mark, who was doing the talking at the time about how he managed to survive the chaos of the start of the race.
So the Formula One podium will be greeting the podium drivers. We're going to have to step away now, and we'll be back with you for Formula One action, or at least for Porsche Carrera Cup North America, presented by Yokohama action at Formula One at the Canadian Grand Prix, and plenty more action on IMSA Radio, on IMSA TV. Shea Adam was alongside me in the IMSA Global Broadcast House. Let's go and celebrate with the guys.
From Miami, Florida, Moise Uretsky. Third yesterday, winner today. Congratulations. And the winner